Conventions are back in full swing, and once again, halls are filled to the bursting with fans of everything fandom, be it Star Wars, Marvel, Doctor Who, Firefly, anime, or anything in between. You name a fandom, you will see it at a convention. I've been going to conventions since 2013, and there are lessons I've learned over the past 10 years that help me have a successful weekend. And since there are always folks who are new to the convention scene, or people who are maybe a little rusty after not attending for a while, I thought it would be fun to share Lydia's top 10 tips for surviving a convention. So let's dive in. Allons-y! Number 1. Have a plan. Some people love spontaneity, and I have talked to my fair share of people over the years who say, "Oh yeah, I saw an ad on the news last night and was like, hey, I like Star Wars. That looks cool. Let's go check out their nerd event tomorrow." Those people are usually walking around the con floor with a stunned expression, blown away that the geek world could be just that massive. However, if you're an introvert, or prone to anxiety, or neurodivergent, or in my case all of the above, you're gonna want to make a plan. Even if that plan is that you have no plan. There have been years where my plan was wander, see and be seen, have fun. And that's perfectly okay. I've had awesome days just going with the flow and drinking it all in. But if there's a panel you want to attend, or a celebrity you want to meet, or something that is the whole reason you're going to the event, plan out your day. Know that at most conventions you will need to line up for a Q&A panel at least an hour ahead of time. Autographs as well. The more well-known the actor, the longer the wait, and it can be upwards of an hour. As well, it takes longer than you think to get from one place to another, made slower by the fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands of other people also trying to get to the same place. And if you're planning a cosplay that is in any way bulky or awkward, you need to plan to have a handler. This can be a friend or family member, preferably someone who is enthusiastic to be there, who can help you navigate the crowds, getting to a different floor level, posing for pictures, food and bathroom breaks, and anything else you might need. My mom and I have each done cosplays where we needed a handler, and the way we, handle it is that we trade off complicated cosplays on different days. So if I'm doing Shindig Kaylee, which needs a handler due to the volume of the skirt, my mom will wear a low-key cosplay and be my handler, and when my mom was the nurse from The Empty Child, I wore a low-key cosplay and was her handler. But make sure you arrange that ahead of time so that neither person feels like they're working all the time, and so both people can get to enjoy the con to their fullest. So map out your day, plan out your cosplays, arrange details with the people you're going with. Having that planned out ahead of time will go miles towards relieving stress. Number 2, pace yourself. It can be really easy to want to do everything, and you just can't. Sometimes it'll be easy, maybe there's only one thing you want to do, and then you're fine spending the rest of the day just wandering aimlessly. Other times there will be multiple panels and multiple autographs and artist alley, and how are you possibly going to fit everything in? If it's your first convention, I'd advise only doing one big thing a day. And even when you're having a casual day just wandering around, plan to do it in blocks of time, taking a little break in between. There is so much to look at, it can get overwhelming really fast. Give your brain a chance to take everything in, otherwise your eyes glaze over and you might miss something really cool. Number 3, drink water. This should be a no-brainer, but it's very easy to forget. You need to stay hydrated or your physical and mental health will suffer by the end of the day. Rah! Even if you're in a finicky costume, please drink water. Most convention halls have water fountains and those refillable water bottle spout things, so bring a bottle and keep it topped up. I let myself get dehydrated when I wore my canary cosplay because the pants and corset were a pain in the butt to manage, and I didn't feel like dealing with that more than I had to. I didn't feel great at the end of the day, and not drinking enough water was one of the reasons why. Don't be like me, kids. Drink your water. Number 4, bring snacks, aka don't get gouged by the exorbitant prices charged at the venue. This will vary from con to con, but in Toronto at least, the markup on food inside the venue is insane. We're talking at Fan Expo Canada 2022, a basic hot dog and a can of pop cost $15. And I'm not even going to mention the pizza. Or the years people who have stepped outside to get cheaper street food get stuck outside the venue for hours because the event was that oversold. So, if you want to save money, time, and headaches, bring some snacks with you. Some cons will say no outside food, but I've found in the past that as long as you don't make a big deal about it and you're not flaunting the food around, you don't get bothered. Also, some people online will tell you to pretend to have food allergies or dietary restrictions if you're hassled. Please don't do that. Faking a medical condition only makes it harder for those of us who actually do have said medical conditions to get the accommodations we need. But yeah, Crackers, cheese, fruits, jerky, any relatively healthy nibbles to keep you going through the day will save your wallet and will be better for your health than forking out for overpriced, mediocre fast food. Number 5. Pack appropriately. If you're not cosplaying, use whatever bag is most comfortable, bearing in mind that you'll be carrying it all day long. Make sure that whether it's on your back, arm, or shoulder, you can carry it comfortably. And if it's not big enough to carry acquired merch without potential damage, consider packing a reusable bag that you can pop out to hold your purchases. And it doesn't need to be a massive bag either. Figure out what is the bare minimum to get by and bring that. When I'm at a con, I usually just carry my ID, debit and credit card, cash in bills, not change, a handful of cosplay business cards, and my emergency medications. These will fit into a bag about the size of a clutch purse. However, I usually opt for something a little bit bigger than a clutch purse so I can carry other things like lunch, water bottle, lav mic, mini tripod, and any merch I find. And I always try to make sure my bag matches the aesthetic of my character. If you can find a way to incorporate a method of carrying into your cosplay, it makes your life easier and upholds the aesthetic. Whether it's using a bag, pockets on the outside, or sneaky pockets on the inside, work your carrying method into your cosplay. And if you're cosplaying, you should pack a few essentials that you might need for touch-ups along the way, whether it's makeup, a tiny bottle of hairspray, or a spare stick of celery. You should also consider bringing a few little emergency things like band-aids for blisters and safety pins for unexpected costume mishaps. There are often cosplay repair areas on site, but you don't want to be reliant on that. Number 6. Set your budget ahead of time. You'll be surrounded by an absolutely massive amount of fandom, artworks, knickknacks, memorabilia, and games. And it is very easy to spend a lot of money real fast. The easiest way to stick to your budget is by bringing cash. Once it's all gone, you can't buy any more stuff. And before you bring up ATMs, know that they often have super long lines, and some conventions have actually run out of cash midday. While a lot of vendors these days are able to accept Square, PayPal, and the like, there are some that are still strictly cash only. This also applies to things like autographs and photo ops. Check on the convention website and they will usually have the prices for these listed, which can help you plan out your budget ahead of time. You may find out that an autograph is just way beyond what you're willing to spend, in which case you might decide that just going to the Q&A panel is worth more than dropping $100+ on an autograph. On the other hand, if getting that special something signed is one of your main reasons for attending, see Dialogue signed by Nathan Fillion, Bolin signed by Stephen Amell, and TARDIS signed by Peter Davidson and Matt Smith. You may just have to adjust your budget in other places. Bring food instead of buying it, plan to buy less merch, find a cheaper hotel room, whatever you need to do to get the most out of your experience without your wallet weeping by the end of it. Number 7. Finish your cosplay ahead of time. It is a tradition among cosplayers to be finishing the last details of a cosplay at stupid o'clock at night in the hotel room the night before you're going to wear the cosplay. I am guilty of this myself. I hemmed my 5th Doctor coat in the hotel room. But why do we do this to ourselves? I get that sometimes you hit roadblocks in construction and something takes longer than expected, but as a whole, if you can finish your cosplay ahead of time, try to do so. Now, I'm not talking about finessing the little details. Absolutely, make sure your costume is laid out the night before, fluff and style the wig that's been in storage for months, iron or steam any fabrics that need it, make sure nothing got damaged in transit, etc., etc. I'm talking about hemming an entire frock coat, or bringing the glue gun to the hotel to assemble that one last big thing. I'm also talking about things like breaking in your shoes ahead of time so you don't get halfway through the day and realize that your boots are half a size too big and now you have blisters on your heels with another full day at the convention to go. Will I learn from this particular piece of advice I'm giving? Probably not. Is it still worth saying? Absolutely. My stress levels go way down when I can go to bed and get a full night's sleep knowing I can just pop everything on in the morning. And speaking of sleep, number 8, follow the 3-2-1 rule. This applies a bit more to the mega cons that have events going until the wee hours, and also for the extroverts, and it may seem kind of obvious, but you'd be amazed how many people don't follow this. And following this rule will benefit not just you, but everyone around you too. The 3-2-1 rule is as follows. To have the best experience at a convention, every day you attend, you need the minimum: 3 hours of sleep, 2 meals, 1 shower. Again, this is the bare minimum, and some people call it the 5-2-1 rule, encouraging a minimum of 5 hours of sleep. Lack of sleep makes you draggy and cranky, and makes your immune system more susceptible to the infamous con crud. Con crud, a common illness resembling a cold or flu, often found at conventions due to the large amount of people interacting in a confined space. I've had con crud. It ain't fun, but it is super common and fairly preventable so long as you keep your immune system happy. 2 meals keeps you going, especially if you bring some snacks for midday. 1 shower a day? I really hope that's self-explanatory. Keeps you smelling fresh as a daisy, and washing off any dirt and funk you accumulated from being around many people helps to ward off said con crud. Also, side note, wash your hands at every opportunity throughout the day, particularly before you eat. You'll probably be using handrails or escalators at some point, and you have no idea how clean other congoers' hands are. Or aren't. Number 9. Find a quiet place to recharge. This especially applies to introverts. Cons are probably the busiest place you will ever be in your life. And even though you're surrounded by happy fellow geeks, you are surrounded by people. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or like your social battery is running low, find a quiet corner, they do exist, and chill for a bit until you feel better. And if you're prone to anxiety attacks and you feel yourself getting stressed, talk to a staff member and ask if they have a first aid room or some quiet place set aside where you can just get away from the chaos for a while. Don't wait until you're actively having a panic attack before finding your quiet space. Also, if you're at a small convention where your hotel room is attached to the con, going back to your room is an option and can make for unexpected great memories. I was at a small Doctor Who convention one year and we paid the extra $20 to upgrade to the executive floor, which the way things at that con were laid out, 1, landed me my first ever TV interview, and 2, meant that we got to eat breakfast a table away from Peter Davidson. So find your bit of peace and quiet among the chaos, whatever that may look like. Before I get to the final tip of the video, I want to offer an honorable mention, one that feels a bit too niche to be considered a top 10, but is still valuable, and one I wish I had heeded last year. Check if any other major events are happening in the area that might affect traffic, and plan your exit strategy accordingly. What does that mean? Story time. Normally, my mom and I get a hotel just outside the city and take the subway into downtown Toronto. However, Fan Expo Canada 2022, on the Saturday, I was debuting Kaylee's shindig dress, and I was not about to take this organza layer cake on public transit. So we figured we'd drive right downtown, get a parking spot close by, and then when we're done, we just hop in the car and drive home, right? No. We did get downtown. We did find a parking garage right across the street from the convention center. It was the drive home that was, shall we say interesting? Interesting? Total Goram nightmare was more like it. See, we hadn't counted on 2 things. 1, Fan Expo Canada was running during the CNE, Ontario's state fair, one of the top state fairs in North America. With it being the first year back since the lockdowns, attendance was high. 2, there was a baseball game that night, which is typical for summer in Toronto, but this was no ordinary game. That Saturday was the 30th anniversary of when the Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series, and we parked smack dab in the middle of it all. I will spare you the agonizing details, but in summary, a trip home that normally takes about an hour or 2 took over 6 hours. It was after 1:30 in the morning when we finally made it home, and I swore never again. I will spend the extra money and book a hotel room downtown if I have to, but I am not making a drive like that again. So learn from my mistake and plan your exit strategy. If you know it's going to be insane to drive that night, get a hotel room, park farther away and take public transit the rest of the way, or if your schedule is flexible and you're not going for the entire weekend, you could even look at attending on a different day than you had originally planned. Just don't drive for 6 hours after spending an entire day at a con. Just don't. And lastly, we have my favorite tip, one that everyone knows but still bears reminding. Have fun and bask in the geekery around you. I'm a millennial who grew up in the time where being a geek was kind of weird. I was raised on Star Wars, Star Trek, and Tolkien, and have always been unapologetically geeky. I still remember my very first convention and geeking out so hard seeing Darth Vader, Iron Man, and a real life-size moving talking Dalek. It's been 10 years since that first con, and I still have moments where I jump up and down seeing an epic cosplay. My first convention back after the madness of the past couple years and wondering if conventions as we knew them would ever be a thing again. I will never forget standing in the middle of the hall, taking in the feeling of belonging, of I'm home, I'm with my people. Hearing a familiar little mechanical whistle, turning around and seeing R2-D2 rolling by, and y'all, I very nearly burst into tears of joy right in the middle of the convention floor. So the most important tip I can offer you, let yourself be a child again and geek out about all the epic, amazing things that you see that make your geeky heart leap for joy. So those are my top 10 tips for a successful convention weekend. I hope you enjoyed my geeky ramblings and found my experiences helpful. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so the algorithm knows to share it to other fellow geeks. And if you have any convention success tips that I didn't cover, consider sharing them in the comments below so that other con goers can have a great experience, and I will see you all in my next video. And at Fan Expo Canada 2023. If you see me, say hi! Why did I decide to film 11 costume changes in the summer? And I haven't even gotten to the leather jacket yet. So let's dive in. Allons-y! Work. Oh, just FYI, this coat looks amazing, but I can barely move in it. And it is solid leather, so it is so stinking hot. Suffer by the end of the day. Ah!